Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Toni and I'm a homeschooling mom to 4 kids. And we are talking today about dating and why dating is important. So if you want to hear about it, stay tuned. All right, it's not what you think. You probably figured that if you know me, that I'm not talking about me dating, I'm talking about dating my kids and why dating your kids is important. And what I mean by that is taking your kids on dates. It might seem like that's not that big of a deal, but it really, really is. I have been doing this since my kids were little. Like once we had 2 kids, we made sure we took each kid out on dates on their own, whether my husband did it or whether I did it. And it was just making sure they had that one-on-one time with mom or one-on-one time with dad. And it was so special and they really loved it. And now that we have more kids for our family, we've got 4 kids. So it is so easy to get caught up in just the kids. Like you keep the kids together and you're doing this with the kids. But that one kid doesn't have that special one-on-one attention. They don't feel like they're set apart, that they're their own self, because you get kind of lumped together. When you're homeschool family, you know what I mean? Where you're kind of like, you're always doing everything together. You wake up, you do chores, you do school, you go to the library together, you go to church together, you go to whatever. One kid one of my daughters has volleyball. I might have to take everybody with me. It's like this kind of, we're a group, which is great. But we want to make sure that they don't lose their individual specialness. Is that a word? I don't know. We'll call it a word. So I really feel like that is super important. It has worked for us for years. Now, I'm going to be brutally honest and tell you, we have majorly failed at it the last 3 years. Life got hard. I don't know if you guys have ever been in that place where life got really hard and you were maybe thrown some things that you were not ready for. And that happened to us, and we were thrown some very difficult trials that we weren't ready for. And we became, rather than making sure we spent time with just this kid and just this kid and just this kid, it's been like, okay, we're all together and we're kind of functioning together. Well, we weren't functioning very well together sometimes, but we just kind of did stuff together. We did everything together. So we didn't have that individual one-on-one time. And I kind of forgot about it. I was like, dates did not cross my mind because there's all this other stuff that we have to deal with. It was my husband's health and trying to just keep our family running, we own an inn, so trying to keep the inn running, trying to homeschool, trying to stick with my YouTube channel and being a good YouTuber, and just keeping consistent with everything that needed to happen. So the actual individual dates just didn't happen, barely ever. And it wasn't until recently that I was reminded what we were missing out on, that my kids were feeling their attitudes were starting to change a little bit. And I don't know if it's, we can't say it's all because they didn't go on dates. No, not necessarily. But if they didn't feel that special individuality and feel like they're a special person by themselves because life was just hectic, I think that really affected the way they acted towards each other, the way they acted towards us, just their attitude in general. I really saw a major change and I realized I need to fix this. So what did we do? Recently, I realized that this needed to get started again. So what I tried to do was make sure everybody gets at least one date. Ideally, it would be a date a week, which would take about a month if you've got 4 kids. If you've got 6 kids, it could take a little longer. If you've only got 1 or 2, then it's not going to take as long. You could do it every week. I really think it's important. Obviously, on a side note, it's important to date your husband too. And I think that is something else you need to make sure is a priority. And that's another thing we haven't done much of in a very long time. And we're trying to get better at it. We just realized we had an Applebee's gift card that we haven't used. And we're going to go out on a date soon to use the Applebee's gift card. But that's husband and wife. Yes, you need to do that. But the kids is who I'm talking about today. So what kind of things have I done? You might be like, well, what are you supposed to do? Or how am I going to be able to afford this? It does not have to be an expensive date. All I'm talking about is one-on-one alone time. Easy thing would be, hey, I have to go to the grocery store. How about you go with me? You and this one kid. You know what you have is you've got, maybe for us, we've got about 18 minutes or so in the car to talk. Then we've got an hour and a half at the grocery store, then 18 minutes back. You could get them a treat, buy them a candy bar while they're there, or get them something like very minimal. It didn't cost me anything. It was something I had to do anyway, but it gave us that alone time, and it really, I've seen a difference, even in doing grocery stores. The other thing, like near us, I'm a soda drinker, trying to kick that, but if I go to get a soda, I'd much rather just go by myself and run and do it myself. But there are times where I'm like, hey, why don't you go with me? I took my youngest yesterday I got her a Slurpee when I got myself a soda. And I mean, this is maybe 5 minutes. I don't even think it's a 5-minute drive. And then maybe we're in the store for 6 minutes and then 5 minutes back. It's not a super long time, but it is a time for me and her to be away from everybody else and just a special little bond. It doesn't take that much. Taking somebody out for ice cream. I guess a lot of our stuff has to do with food, but food is great. Why not? It could be like, oh, I've got to run to get dog food at Dollar General. Why don't you come with me? Pick a kid, try to make sure. Sometimes you have to ask them and be like, okay, who did I take last? Or who hasn't gone yet? And my kids understand that and they're okay with it, but it really has been a big difference. Now, there are big things you can do too. Like the other day, I took my son to the Cleveland Air Show. We had an opportunity where a friend offered for us to go with them, and I was like, oh my goodness, he would love this. So that was a huge date because it was just me and him away from the rest of the family with our friends, but it was just me and him, and it was all day. It was like we got up at, I think we left at 7:30 or so. No, we had to be there at 7:30. I think we left at 7 a.m. So we got up at like 6:30 a.m., which is early for us. We don't ever get up early. But we got up super early and we didn't get back till about 5 or so. We had all day together. It was so fun. He got to go inside of all these airplanes. There was an air show where you got to see airplanes do all these different flips and all this stuff. And it wasn't free, and even the food. Unfortunately, we brought waters and we weren't allowed to bring them in because they were metal. I don't know why you couldn't bring a metal in, but you couldn't. That was their rule. So then, of course, as soon as I walk in, I'm like so thirsty. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to die of thirst just because of that thought of not having your water. So anyway, we bought a lemonade for like $10, which is crazy. And I think we got a tiny little, like 10-ounce water bottle for $4 and a Coke for $5. We spent some money. And Dippin' Dots, I got him Dippin' Dots. So it was one of those things, I probably spent $35 on food. But he kept talking about those, he was calling them Dipping Dots. So cute. But it was like our special thing, just me and him getting to do this. And he kept talking about the Dippin' Dots. And Mom, remember when we got those? And it was really fun. And it was something he needed. And I really can see a behavior change in some ways in the kids when we do this. And that's why I'm telling you guys about it, because I have noticed that it's something that it's easy for mom. For one thing, like when you're going grocery shopping, I need alone time sometimes too. So you have to balance that, and that is hard because I will go crazy if I don't get a little bit of alone time. So there are times where I'm like, no, I'm not taking anybody with me today. I need to go by myself, or this needs to be quick, or whatever. So I'm not saying you always have to take somebody, but if there's an opportunity where you think you're holding up okay and you're not going to go crazy, and you don't need alone time that day, take one of your kids with you and just make it a date. Call it a date. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to make it this big fancy thing, but you could if you wanted to. You could take them to a real restaurant. Most of the time we don't do that. That was one of the other dates I did with my one of my daughters. My one daughter, I could tell that she really needed some alone time. We needed to be able to talk with nobody else around. So we just went to Panera. This is a date I have done with my girls since they were little, and I've always loved it. And we kind of stopped for a while, but I really want to start doing it again. I've talked about it before. It came about by doing 5 in a row, and we had read a book called The Glorious Flight, and it took place in Paris. So I took my oldest at the time. She was in kindergarten, I think. I took my oldest on a date to Panera. We pretended like we were in Paris, and we got a loaf of French bread all cut up with butter and plates, and we shared a soda, and we just sat there and buttered bread and talked about what it would be like to be in Paris and pretend like we were in Paris. It was so fun. And it spawned this new like tradition where every time it was somebody's birthday, I would take them to Panera, just me and them, and we'd get a loaf of bread and we'd sit and eat the bread. It was such a special thing that didn't cost that much. Panera is very expensive and ridiculous, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like it may be $8 for like a loaf of bread and a drink. So it wasn't that big of a deal. So anyway, that was what we did. So I took my I took one of my girls this week to Panera, and we just sat and we just talked, and it was just a good chance with nobody around and just us looking across each other at the table and eating, so it's not complete awkwardness and just staring at each other. And it was just sweet and special, and it was good for us to catch up, especially I think as they're becoming teens, because I have a tween and a teen and another one that's coming up that way. I really see the need of making sure they have a space to be able to talk to us and feel comfortable. And if it's always busy, 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 or you're always distracted maybe by that one problem child, or this is happening, or there's always this other stuff happening and they don't feel comfortable talking, make sure you take them away so that you have that chance to talk, because it's really important. I really want to have this close relationship with my kids, and I can definitely see that before all the difficult life circumstances got piled on us, we were closer. So it's been hard, and I feel like I do have some kind of damage control to do to fix the mess happened. I don't know, but I'm trying. I think this is one of the easiest ways to just keep that relationship going. Just take that time. Now, another thing you could do is be like, hey, like my daughter that plays volleyball, let's go out in the backyard and play volleyball. Like, that's something that most of these things are going to take effort. That is really the biggest thing, is like, as a homeschool mom, after you finish your homeschool day, at least for me, I'm exhausted, and I'd love to just chill for a little bit before then I have to make dinner and take somebody to soccer practice and and all that stuff. But we have to sacrifice, and we do need to rest also. So it is a balance, but I really feel like that shows effort. I think just being like, hey, let's go outside and do this, or let's do this. I think that is just showing effort to that you love this one child, not like my kids. Of course I love my kids, but I want them to individually feel like, hey, mom loves me or dad loves me, and see it, as an action and not just words. So, because they've said stuff sometimes here and there, kids overgeneralize a lot. And one of them said a couple days ago, what did she say? One of them said something like, well, mom, you never want to do stuff with me, or something like that. And I was just like, what? And it was kind of frustrating to hear that, because it's not true. It just felt like in the moment, she felt like I had chosen this child to do something with over this child. But instead of getting annoyed about it and being like, well, let me make sure I take that child out and make sure she doesn't feel left out and stuff like that. So I really just think it's all about effort. It doesn't have to cost that much. Thrifting is one way. If you have a child that loves to thrift, I have one that loves to thrift. I have one that hates to thrift. So I've got to know what this kid would want to do and what this kid wouldn't want to do. But easiest thing to do with my oldest is, hey, let's go to the thrift store. We got 20 minutes. Let's go. And just doing that together, even if we're like kind of separated into different parts of the store sometimes, it is still that bonding thing with us, and it makes a difference. I really think it does. Do you guys date your kids? Do you go out on dates? Do your husbands go on dates? I think that's super important too. I have always seen the difference between like a kid that calls their dad dad and daddy. And your kids, as they get older, they may not call him daddy, but that whole feel behind it, my dad was dad. We did not go on dates. I don't have a whole lot of fond memories of like, oh, daddy, And I've always wanted my kids to have that I didn't necessarily feel like I had. And that's something that I really want them to feel close to their dad. And man, doing daddy dates is huge. And that's what we started out as. And I want to continue and have him start doing that too again, just, since I said we stopped for a little bit. But I think that's important too. Doing family game nights, stuff like that as a family, those are important too. So you're not just all sitting individually on the couch, doing your own media or something like that. In this day and age, that happens. But just trying to help everybody feel special and feel loved, because I know this time is flying by. It's going to fly by. I only have 4 years left until my oldest is 18. And I'm sure it'll fly by. So I really want to make this time count with her, but I also don't want to get so focused on her that I forget about one of the middle girls, or so focused on my son. Sometimes the middle kids, I was a middle child. If you're a middle child, please tell me. Please put a heart in the description box if you are a middle child, because we all get it more than anybody. You always feel like you're, you know, like my brother, he was the favorite. He wanted spaghetti for dinner. We had spaghetti for dinner. He could do whatever he wanted. My sister was the baby. She got away with everything. They both got away with everything. And then I feel like I got in trouble for everything. And I'm sure it wasn't that bad, but you know, you feel that. So I've got kind of two middle children, you know, because I have an oldest and I have a youngest, and I feel like the middle girls sometimes can get overlooked. So you really got to make everybody feel special. It's really important. So anyway, let me know what you guys do. If you go on dates, give us some date ideas. I would love for the comment section to be filled with date ideas, because I gave you guys a handful of date ideas, but I know there's more out there that don't cost a lot, because my whole channel is about our thrifty homeschool. We are not loaded with money. My husband is now on disability, so we are even more so trying to make things work on a dime. So if you have any cheap ideas, go for it. We have an ice cream place down the road that is only $1 for a bowl of ice cream. And if you get the right person, you get a really good sized bowl for $1. Stuff like that. Like, find places near you that are cheap but are fun and are good dates. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. Did you guys like this video? If you did, please give me a thumbs up. I'm always encouraged when you guys do that. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not yet subscribed to my channel for my homeschooling, mom life, and thrifty stuff. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.